Hashem's Basai Tivtach Upiagito Asacha. We're now in the 6th Perek of Yehoshua. Here we're going to encounter an amazing first conquest, the first conquest of the Bnei Israel in Eretz Israel. What we know about first are they're more significant than even the act itself. And here it's going to highlight the way in which you inaugurate or you make kadosh things. So to start with, Yericho is sogeret u'mesugeret. It is completely shut. What does it mean to be completely shut? We know in our lives, sometimes we are so shut off emotionally, physically, we just can't be opened. And Yericho is the makom of major tumah. It is not only when they knew that they were going to fight against Bnei Israel, not only did they have a very strong fortification, but they added fortifications as well as the other nations came and they had the power of tumah, of impurity, in spades. And it's that is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a closed in all regards. Ein yotzei, the ein ba. There's no way in, there's no way out. How many times do we emotionally just feel so disconnected that it doesn't matter what someone says? They could be saying the best things in the whole wide world. They just don't enter into our existence. And so what do? Well, Hashem says, Yehoshua, look, I'm going to give you Yericho and its king and all of its warriors. I am going to be that key that allows you the freedom. I am going to be that emotional recharge that is going to help with this level of closed that you're feeling. All you have to do is let your troops march around the city once a day for 6 days. All I want you to do is just start to do something, right? When we're feeling so closed, just start marching. It doesn't mean that you're actually doing anything of major importance, but you're walking the walk, talking the talk. Once a day, do something. And not only that, but first you're going to do it with 7 Kohanim carrying 7 shofars and with the Lifnei HaAron in front of the Aron. Okay, well the number 7 is really significant here. 7 Kohanim, 7 shofars, 7 days, because on the 7th day, which many say was Shabbos, you're going to march around 7 times. Well, this number 7 is really significant, with the Kohanim blowing the shofars. And then there's going to be one long blast on one of the horns. And as soon as you hear that, all the troops should shout. And then the walls are going to come tumbling down. And the troops should advance. Every man just goes straight ahead. Okay. What is the significance? Well, where else do we see that there's 7? We go around 7 times. We know that for the chuppah. We know a bride and a groom. So what is this 7? So what is the bride really doing when she goes under the chuppah? What she's doing this 7 times is she's creating a holy holding pattern where she's creating the beginnings of a bias. She's creating the aura and the energy that she wants there to be. And she goes around 7 times, which is exactly what's happening here. You go around 7 times to change the aura of the place from a time of closed tumah to time that's beautiful and open to kedusha, to holiness. Now, the shofar. Why the shofar? Well, we know what is special about the shofar. The shofar is the only thing on the davening on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that interrupts the rest of the davening. So what we learn is that the shofar is a kind of davening. Perhaps it's a wailing. Perhaps it's a crying out. But it is words without there actually being any words. It's sounds that go straight from our heart. And we know the shofar really impacts. That's why we have it for the month before Rosh Hashanah. And in our most significant times, we always blow the shofar because sometimes there are no words. No words are necessary, just the sound that comes from our heart. And when you want to open up your heart, you have to have a heartfelt plea, a cry, something that's going to shake things up inside of you. And that's what's happening here. Now, anyone doing anything, there's no fighting. There's no one's picking up a weapon. They're just walking the walk. And why is that? And not only that the Aron comes at the after, in the back, after the Kohanim carry it. So, well, let's get to that. So that's what Hashem tells Yehoshua. Now, let's get to what Yehoshua tells the people. So he tells the people, go forward, march around the city with the in front of the Aron. Okay, so the Aron ultimately is in the back. Why would it be significant that the Aron would be in the back? Because remember, what is Yehoshua? He is the new generation of leader with a new generation of people that are no longer going to be experiencing the open miracles. And so if they're not experiencing open miracles, then technically speaking, they have to go in front of the Aron, saying, Hashem always has our back, but our hishtadlus, our efforts, we have to put in. And why is it that the Shevet of Reuven and Gad and Chatzi Menashe, those were the Shvatim that went in first. Why? Because at the time, who was the one that showed the most zest and excitement to do this mitzvah of conquering, of kivush Eretz Yisrael? It was those Shvatim. They left their homes. And so they're getting recognition that there are very significant people who really put the lives of their brothers first. And so they're getting to be first. The Aron and all of those major miracles, that has to take a back seat. Now, ultimately, no one's fighting because ultimately, no one really ever has to fight. Hashem, in his infinite kindness and mercy, takes care of us. But we have to, like we always say, effort comes from man. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ultimate success. That's the source of success, is only Hashem. A beautiful concept that Esther Kimchi mentions that is really significant is the idea of a shofar. We know that the shofar has a narrow end and a wider end. And that is exactly in accordance with what we say. We say before we read the shofar, we say min hametzar karasika anani bar merchavka. Min hametzar, from the narrow part, that's where I call you. But you, Hashem, anani bar merchavka, you are going to widen things, which is the end part of the shofar, the wide. We just have to do a small little part, small, so small. And Hashem does the rest. And that is the ultimate in why we start off the first conquest of Eretz Yisrael by basically doing nothing except stake our claim, create our bias, make sure that the holiness is going to be permeated based on our go-around. What's 7? 7 is creation. Hashem created the world in its perfect form in 7 days. And so we're creating a newfound reality with the 7 and the 7 and the 7 and the 7 within the confines of what we can, which is the confines of nature. Nature is 7. Hashem is showing us you're going into natural world. Ultimately, it's going to be supernatural, but it's going to appear to be natural. And that's exactly what happens. So that's what Yehoshua's orders, but he adds more. He says, do not shout. Don't make a sound. That's until I tell you to shout, and then you shout. Why? Well, I think the dramas, he's getting onto the drama. Very nice. Don't shout until you're told. Because in Judaism, we don't believe that you change things just happenstance by your own accord. We don't change. I'm really feeling that maybe I should have 5 minim for Sukkot. So you know what? That Hanukkah holiday is so terrific. I say we do the month of Kislev as Hanukkah. No, we don't believe in that. And so when he tells you, I'll tell you to jump, then you say how high, right? It's all in accordance. When we're setting what holiness is, we follow the ways of Hashem. And that's exactly what happens. And every day they go around one time, they return to the camp, they spend the night. And Vayashkem Yehoshua Baboker, we know he got up early because that's what a good Helaga Pintel Yid does. He follows in the footsteps of Avram. He gets up early. He shows alacrity. And the Kohanim, they carry the Aron. And a beautiful thing, they go around the 7, Kohanim go around the 7 shofars, and they march in front of the Aron. They're blowing their horns as they march. You can just imagine, this is just so amazing. And all the rest of the time, they're quiet, and they do this for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, they get up early, and they march around the city 7 times, the only day that they march around 7 times. And on the 7th round, Yehoshua says, shout. And why? Ki nasan Hashem lachem es ha'ir. Hashem is giving this to you. And that's exactly what happens. And what does he command them? Do not touch the cherem. Any of the spoils of the city are not yours. Only Rachav, that's the only one. She gets to come out. She gets to be spared. The Rachav Hazona, not exactly a nice way to go down. The Rachav, the harlot, she is going to live. I don't know why in the world he would refer to her as a harlot, but okay. And it's interesting because why was she able to be the only one out of the city? In this sugar mesugeres, in this closed city, why was Rachav a widened kind of person? Because ultimately, before she met Yehoshua, she had already found Hashem. And so when the Meraglim found her, she had already done all of what was needed to be a ger. And she came to be wide by herself. And so just Rachav is the only one who could live. And she ultimately marries Yehoshua. And I think at this point, it's, at least Hashem called her the Zona, because Yehoshua had called her the Zona. Probably wouldn't have had a same happy ending. But in any event, he tells them, do not take anything from this. Everything is going to either the gold and the silver and the choshes and the bargel are kadosh. The copper, the iron, the gold, and the silver are going to go to Hashem. They're going to go to the Otsar Hashem. They're going to go to the treasury of Hashem. And everything else is going to be burned. No one touch anything. If you do, you will be in trouble. And we know that some people did. And it's in Malachim, we know that there was someone who tried. I think his name is Chazael. He tried and as soon as he started the building, one kid died, and by the end, all of his children had died. And we also know Achan, who tried to take the spoils. These spoils are not to be taken. Why? Because they represent all of what's base and tumah and bad. We don't want this. We want only to start off good and fresh and with no remnant. Now, this is Lidoros. No one is allowed to rebuild the city. Again, Yehoshua is highlighting the need for generations. It's not just you're not just living for your now. You're part of a Mesorah. You're part of generations of Jews, each one building on the next. And so we need consistent and constant reminders of where we're up to in this world. And just like in last Perek, and just like when he crosses the yarding, he leaves over stones to never be touched, to always remember. Here too, no one builds up Yericho so that it is a place of remembrance of how Hashem brought Kedusha to us and to Eretz Yisrael, and how we didn't actually have to do one iota of fighting, but we just followed in Hashem, and Hashem took care of us. And so that's exactly what happens. The troops shout, the horns sound, the shofar sounds, and the mighty wall collapses. And the troops rush into the city, every man, and they capture the whole city, and they literally, they exterminate everything. By sword, man, woman, young, old, ox, sheep, donkey, everything goes. And ultimately, Yehoshua tells the two men to go to get the Isha Zona. Oh, so he did call her an Isha Zona. Oops, not a good idea, Yehoshua. And to take her out, and because that was what was, we are Jews. We are committed to what we say and how we say it. And he promised, and a promise is a promise. And the people who were the ones that promised, or the people are the ones that are able to take. And when he takes out Rahab, he also takes her father, her mother, her brother, and everything that she has. Because when we have our word is our honor, and we do it to the nth degree. Everything else is burned. Like we said, only the things that went to the Beis HaMikdash go to the Beis HaMikdash. And Yehoshua ultimately, not only is this an amazing feat at the beginning of his reign, as the Jews are entering into Eretz Yisrael, but also it's an amazing, amazing thing that now he has. He makes the promise that people are going to die if they don't, but ultimately, Vayhi Hashem es Yehoshua, Hashem is with Yehoshua, Vayhi Shemo b'chol haaretz, and he is really widely respected. He becomes a celebrity. He's famous. He did it. He became, and now look at this pasuk, Vayhi Hashem es Yehoshua, not Yehoshua ben Nun anymore. He's now standing on his own 2 feet. He's got it. And everyone knows about him in the land. We feel excited for Yehoshua, that when Kedusha is reigning supreme, when there's just holiness everywhere, he's part of it. He's on top. The Gemara talks about that this was the time that he wrote Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol. We give praise to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzos. You didn't make us like all the other nations. Shehi mishachbim l'hebel barek mispalim el lo yoshia. They bowed down to nothing, nobody. But anachnu korum mishtachavim umodim lifnei melech machayim lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But we bow down to you, Hashem. You're the real deal. And we say that every day as we're leaving shul. Why? As we leave davening. Because that's the ultimate message that we want to hold on to. We do whatever we can, but ultimately we take Hashem with us wherever we go, because he's the one who's holding on to us. He's the one who's responsible for all the good. And Yehoshua, at the prime point in his career, he just loves Hashem and recognizes, no, it's not me. It's all from Hashem. May we merit to be able to consistently be surrounded by Hashem's love always, to feel that love, never to be misager or misugares, never to feel closed. Because ultimately, if we cling to Hashem, and if we really find the beauty in what we're saying, then it's the antidote to make sure that in our lives, in our relationships, and ultimately in our role in Judaism, we will not be closed, but rather we will be open to all possibilities.